Hello, good evening, everybody. So, tonight's topic is Dream Clinic. So, when I was much younger and thinking about what life was going to be like as a physician, I definitely had a different kind of picture in mind of what I would be doing as opposed to what most of medicine has become. A lot of medicine has become a little bit of a revolving door situation where people come in and they get seen and they get taken care of, and then they have to leave within a fairly short amount of time. And so growing up, you would see movies or books or things where they were talking about the old-fashioned country doc, and that's actually the style of medicine that I was most drawn towards, and that's part of the reason why I chose family practice as a profession, actually, because I wanted to be available to be in a rural community and basically be something like a small town doc and be able to handle anything that came through the door. And so as time has gone on, I've refined my ideas of what medicine is like and ways in which people can be helped ultimately to reverse disease and not get sick in the first place. Health has always been a very strong passion of mine as well, because not only do I want to see people healthy, but thriving, and enjoying life and having dreams of their own and being able to pursue those dreams. And I've got my little kitten here. You can see she's gotten a little bit older now, as opposed to last week. So she's about 4 weeks old in this clip. At any rate, so she's, hi Joe, so she's just off camera down below. She may pop back up in a minute if the bottle gets a little more empty here. Alrighty, and so one of the things that has been kind of coming up over the last few years is the idea of how is it that I've ended up in basically modern medicine, which is, as I mentioned, a little bit of a revolving door on there. And it's kind of interesting how a lot of physicians have ended up in this very situation that I'm in now. Back in the 1980s, 90s, I think early 90s it was, there was somebody in the insurance industry that decided that they were going to value a physician's time based on a standardized increment so that they could have what they call a relative value unit. And they decided that the common measure was going to be a 15-minute time slot. So you could charge a certain amount of money for 15 minutes of physician's time. And somehow, over time, that became the kind of the default measure of how long should an appointment visit be. And so, as somebody was playfully saying in one of the articles I was reading a while back, people spend more time at their hairdressers than they do with their physician. And similarly, some people, if they're having trouble using the toilet, they might spend a little more time even doing that kind of activity than they do, face-to-face with their physician. Because the 15-minute time slot has become essentially the standard by which everybody is judged. Hi, y'all. And so it really takes away a little bit about the relationship, I think, between the physician and the patient. And that's something that I'd like to be able to bring back to the fore. Many physicians end up in a job where they're taking care of about 4,000 patients. So that's actually the total number on my team. And I've got a pool of about 10,000 more, roughly, more or less, that are able to kind of drift in out depending on whether other folks in my broader community of providers, if somebody is out sick, then somebody on their panel might show up in front of me. And although it's not a bad thing, I quite enjoy seeing some of my colleagues' patients occasionally, give them a little taste of lifestyle medicine, I guess. And but it is definitely harder to keep track of folks if you don't really get to see them very often, if you don't really get to know them. And so one of my ideas is to have a small direct primary care practice in the community and have that practice be not just my idea, but also designed by the community itself. There's actually a little bit of a movement going on amongst some of the physicians who are wanting to get out of the treadmill of this 15-minute appointment cycle that we tend to be kind of stuck in, and release ourselves from the regular clinic. So the benefit of having a large clinic is that that basically you have a lot of support staff, someone answering the phone, someone keeping track of the records, someone billing the insurance companies, and so forth. But for every additional staff that is in there, the overhead goes up even more. Back before I even went into medical school, one of the doctors that I shadowed back up in Groton, Massachusetts, far away from here in Florida, and he pointed out to me that just to keep the lights on and the staff paid, he had to see 5 patients an hour, and that was just the minimum to keep his small practice operating. And there was also some physicians that I spoke with that were practicing up in the mountains. Actually, more specifically, one had previously practiced up in the mountains of New York, and he quite happily told me that he delivered every baby in, I think it was 100, 200 square mile radius around his little town, because he was out in the middle of nowhere and was the country doc physician out there delivering babies, sewing up things. The dream that I had in my mind originally. And he said that he wasn't able to keep his business open because he was accepting, I think, Medicare or Medicaid patients, and basically it wasn't enough income to keep the lights on and the staff paid and everything. And so in the current business model, you have to generate quite a bit of money to be able to pay for all of the overhead and everything. However, if you have a micro clinic where you have fewer patients and it's